Hello, my friends, and welcome back. This is your first time here? Welcome. I usually respond to crazy nonsense and misconceptions about pagans, witches, and occult studies of various esoteric topics. Today's video is a little different, and so a bingo card will not be available. You may have already heard that the Department of War has updated and consolidated its list of religious codes from 200 to now 31. This provision, they claim, is for religious support service. It does not mean that they are kicking those religions out of the military, but it does mean minority religions, including paganism, Wicca, Druidry, and heathenism, will no longer be formally recognized. As put forth in a May 20th, 2026 memo, the new religious affiliation codes list will provide chaplains with clear, readily available information that will better enable them to anticipate the religious support needs of service members and to provide religious support activities that align with service members' personal faith and practices. At first, this may not seem like a big deal, but it does negatively impact those who will fall into the other category. Let's take a deeper look into what this actually means. In military doctrine, religious support services refers to all chaplain-provided activities that enable free exercise of religion. For example, conducting worship services, performing sacraments or rites, offering pastoral counseling, providing religious education, and advising commanders on ethical/religious issues. Religious support needs are the specific spiritual or religious requirements of service members, dietary laws, observance of holy days, desire for counsel or prayer support, etc., that chaplains seek to fulfill. Joint doctrine explicitly defines chaplaincy's mission as meeting the personal free exercise of religion needs of military personnel. Army chaplain doctrine likewise lists worship rites, sacraments, pastoral care, religious education, among other functions, as core religious support activities. Concrete examples of religious support services include worship and rites, pastoral counseling, religious education, holy day accommodations, dietary laws, burial and ceremonies, religious materials and facilities, referral and liaison, and ethical advisement. The reduction to 31 official codes may simplify data handling, but has practical effects on religious support. In general, listed faiths, those included in the new code list, gain greater visibility in official statistics. Chaplains can readily see how many unit members identify with each listed category and plan specific resources for them. Endorsing bodies for listed faiths, e.g. Catholic dioceses, Jewish rabbinates, have clear channels to request chaplain assignments, and chaplain supply systems are structured to stock necessary items for those faiths. In contrast, unlisted faiths, those removed from the list, now lumped into other or broad category, face challenges because they no longer appear as distinct data categories. Commanding officers and chaplains may underestimate or overlook their presence. For example, if Wiccan or Druid adherents were previously counted separately, chaplains knew to anticipate specific items, altar tools, nature-based observances, and possibly invite Wiccan priests. Under the new system, such practitioners would just be other, making targeted support harder. Chaplains and commands must now rely more on direct communication with service members of unlisted faiths to identify their needs. This impacts service members' data and visibility. Those on the list have presence tracked. Those not on the list are lumped as other. Chaplain assignments. Those on the list have a dedicated chaplain. Those not on the list have no specific chaplain. Worship services, regular services, ad hoc gatherings. Sacraments and rites, authorized rites, a referral is needed. Counseling and care, there's faith-specific care, and generic counseling for those not on the list. Holy days and holidays. Scheduled observances, their recognition or request for holiday has to be submitted. They are only recognized on request. Dietary needs, automatic provisioning, request-driven. Religious materials, standard supply, and special sourcing. Reporting and trends, data-driven planning, and no trend data. And as far as pagan-based faiths, who will this impact? Roughly about 6,300 to 8,400 service members. Based on very rough estimates of pagans, druids, witches, and Wiccans and heathens in America, we make up roughly about 0.3 to 0.4% of the U.S. population. Given the estimated population of service members in our armed forces as roughly 2.1 million, this means about 6,300 to 8,400 service members identify as either pagan, druid, witch, Wiccan, or heathen. Let's take a look at a short video shared by Pete Hegseth on these changes.
As I reported to you in December, in previous administrations, our chaplain corps was infected by political correctness and secular humanism.
Infected? As his opening as to why the military is shrinking what they deem to be an overwhelming number of faiths in America. Come on, guys, move over to the dominant faiths. But he decides to say infected by political correctness and secular humanism? Well, now it is only infected by Christian nationalism. There are many troubling thoughts this brings to mind. Number one, what exactly does he believe are faiths of political correctness? What faith has had the largest influence on political correctness in terms of language, nudity, and fictional violence in games and movies? What religion has deemed certain words as curse words and attempted to completely remove them from our lexicon? I'll give you a hint. It wasn't paganism, and it wasn't secular humanism. Number two, secular humanism promotes morality and goodwill. Morality without religion, science and reason, free inquiry, human responsibility, democracy, and human rights. What is so horrible about that? Well, I guess promoting morality without religion is a bad thing. About 1% of the population identify as secular humanists, and 24 to 29%, that's about 1/3 of all Americans, identify as none. I don't know how many of them would agree with secular humanism, but I'm guessing a large portion of them would. An estimated 21,000 service members may identify as secular humanists.
The core functions of the chaplain corps were changed and watered down until they were viewed by many as nothing more than therapists.
Watered down and viewed as nothing more than therapists? Isn't that the function of a religious leader? To be an ear, to listen and offer spiritual guidance, to comfort those who are dying or witness death and face their own mortality? I would say that religious leaders carry a wider burden than simply being a therapist.
Faith and virtue were traded for self-help and self-care.
Actually, by removing the recognition of certain chaplains, you are forcing individuals to seek solace internally, to rely upon themselves, and devaluing their faith. I am sure, as a soldier dealing with trauma, that isolating oneself is detrimental.
We started correcting that drift then, and today, we're going further. The crucible of combat tests more than the body.
Using the analogy of combat being a crucible, just as copper, iron, and silver each react differently to heat, so too do people react differently to faith. One creed may temper a soul into strength, while the same may leave another brittle and broken. You cannot remove one faith and expect another to fill its place.
It tests conviction, character, and spirit. The military's chaplain corps serves as the spiritual and moral backbone of our nation's armed forces.
More the reason to have soldiers who feel their faith is recognized, and that in times of turmoil, they can turn to one who represents their belief, and not just a paragraph in a manual of other.
Chaplains help forge spiritual readiness across the force.
And not every medal is the same.
And that matters because in combat, in crisis, and in loss, a warfighter needs more than a coping mechanism.
You are right. They do need more than just a coping mechanism, more than just a generic faith or a template carved to fit other. They need a specific fit.
They need truth, big T truth.
Well, now you are speaking of the big ST, subjective truth, as all faiths are subjective truth.
They need conviction. They need a shepherd.
You are using very Christian language. Not every flock and shepherd is the same.
And as I've said before, spiritual health is equally important to a service member's physical and emotional health.
Yes, and just as a body is nourished by food, the soul is nourished by belief. And just as not every food sustains every body equally, not every faith feeds every spirit. We seem to be in agreement here, but instead of inclusion, you are creating exclusion.
This update is part of our efforts to return the Chaplain Corps to its core mission.
Was the core mission of the chaplains to force every round peg into a square hole? Because that is what you are doing. Faith and belief is not a one-size-fits-all.
Of serving the spiritual needs of our warfighters.
Yes, the spiritual needs. How can you assume that of the estimated 2.1 million servicemen and women, that they are all going to fit nicely into 31 square holes?
82% of whom identify as being religious.
That is quite different from the American public, where 70 to 76% identify as some specific religious tradition, and about 24 to 28% identified as none or other. That's almost 1/3. That is a huge number of people.
Today, I want to update you on 2 reforms we are undertaking to further make sure we're making the Chaplain Corps great again.
You are not making it great. You are trimming it down for administrative purposes. You are minimizing sacred held beliefs to a number in a spreadsheet.
In December, I told you that we were going to revamp the military's current faith and belief coding system.
Why? Not enough RAM for spreadsheets to calculate those extra numbers? Cost of sewing supplies too high for a proper badge and insignia? How much is a human life worth, Pete?
Renaming it the religious affiliation codes. The previous system had ballooned to well over 200 faith codes.
200 faith codes representing an estimated 2.1 million servicemen and women? Oh, I can see how that must have been an administrative nightmare. Can Excel handle that many rows?
200. It was impractical and unusable.
Actually, it seems very practical and very useful. Are you telling me the military caps out at 200? That's the point. It gets too unwieldy, and you have to trim everything down? Sorry, Johnny, you only get 200 bullets. Make them count.
And many codes were never used at all.
But they were there and had been used at some point, and most likely would be used again. Is that how you manage equipment? Use it once and throw it away?
An overwhelming majority of the military population used only 6 of the codes.
By that logic of trimming down numbers, why have 21 codes for Christians? Why not just one? One God, one Bible, one code. You could save all sorts of administrative headaches.
Our internal review committee recommended that going forward, the department use 31 religious affiliation codes.
And what were they assigned to do? Trim it down to its bare minimum, or to represent as many service members as possible in accordance with the People's Bill of Rights? You know, that piece of paper they swear to uphold and die for.
This brings the codes in line with its original purpose.
To fairly and equally represent as many faiths in the military as possible, to make our service members feel welcomed, recognized, and most importantly, represented.
Giving chaplains clear, usable information.
Clear and usable information? I don't even know how that relates to spiritual guidance and feeling represented. I would hope that orders would be clear and usable as to what it all means to a soldier and why they should risk their neck for a country that considers them other. No, that is not clear nor usable.
So they can minister to service members in a way that aligns with that service member's faith background and religious practice.
That is adding, not subtracting. If you want to align with service members, you should add faiths, not take them away.
The second reform I want to tell you about today concerns chaplain rank insignia. The memo I will sign today directs chaplains, all of whom are officers, to replace the rank insignia on their uniforms with their religious insignia.
Now that's a nice touch. Makes all service members sort of equal. Kind of like how the People's Bill of Rights First Amendment makes all religions equal, and not promoting any one religion over another.
Their rank will not be shown. This speaks to the difficult balance of the duality of a military chaplain. A chaplain is first and foremost a chaplain, and an officer second.
Kind of like how we are beholden to our Constitution and Bill of Rights before any politician, or how politicians are beholden to all the people of faith and not just one faith.
This change is a visual representation of that fact. Specifically unique to the role of a chaplain, they are first and foremost called and ordained by God.
No, your vision of the totality of America is very narrow. Not all American service members believe in a monotheistic deity or a God, nor are they required to. You clearly have a bias towards one faith.
And while they will retain rank as an officer, to those they serve, their rank will not be visible. Instead, they will be seen among the highest ranks because of their divine calling.
Unless they fall under other. Among them are humanists and atheists who would not see themselves as divinely called, but rather on equal footing with their fellow man.
This reform is intended to uplift and celebrate the chaplain's role as a chaplain.
It is not to uplift and celebrate all religions and faiths, but rather to divide and make those who are other feel downtrodden and ignored.
It also removes any unease or anxiety junior officers or enlisted personnel may have in approaching an officer, potentially a senior officer.
I am sure a Christian will feel comfortable approaching a Christian, a Jew approaching another Jew, or a Hindu approaching a Hindu. As for a pagan, just seek anybody wearing a badge of other, or really any other person at random.
For guidance on sensitive matters, such as addiction, relationships, or struggles with faith.
It is going to be difficult to speak to someone who does not share your worldview or a general philosophy as your own. I really do not see unrepresented soldiers feeling comfortable in this environment to open up about serious issues.
These two reforms are big progress, but we're not even close to being done.
What sort of reform are you alluding to? This is not expansive. This is reductive.
These are the first steps toward restoring the esteemed position of chaplain as moral anchors of our fighting force.
So the ones you eliminated were not esteemed or moral anchors?
Theirs is a high and sacred calling, but they can only be successful if they're given the freedom to boldly guide and care for their flock.
You keep using specific language to the Abrahamic faiths. Not everyone wants to be a sheep.
And to our chaplain, you have a sacred calling. So preach the truth.
Speak your subjective truth.
Be steadfast in your faith.
Unless you follow other.
And shepherd the flock.
Keep your shepherding to your side of the field.
Entrusted to you.
This is not a step forward, nor is this making anything better or even more efficient. This is blatantly a way to sideline certain faiths and demean others by delegitimizing them. Even excess use of language such as infect and political correctness are negatively charged, while promoting a very Christian term such as shepherd, flock, and divinely called. These are not words spoken by a military leader to address his troops in the spirit of unity, liberty, and freedom, but rather to segregate and divide and show favoritism. This is indeed not the worst thing that could happen to our brave men and women charged with defending our great nation, but it is also a setback, one of many we have and will witness. As Christian nationalists, wrap everything in together and assume that everything not Christian is woke, negatively progressive, Marxist, anti-American, and anti-Christian. Pagan faiths have become the scapegoat, destined to carry the sins of everything Christian nationalism deems wrong with current society. Why? Because we are an easy target. That's why. To our brave pagan servicemen and women who have taken an oath to defend our great nation, I salute you and your service. You are worthy of respect, worthy of honor, and you act out of love of your fellow man, your fellow comrades, and your gods. Hold your head high, because you take the written words of the people's Bill of Rights to heart and give them life. You are the embodiment of what freedom and liberty for all truly means. Until next time, my friends, I will see you in hell, you heathens.
They say we cast our spells in